We're going to see you in a little bit, but let's welcome in Panda to take over the next match. Panda, how are you doing?
I'm doing great and, very happy for the Asian region to find some success with both, back-to-back wins there for Yamato and Odyssey. Spoiler wins against Majin, one of the favorites in the tournament as well. So very, very exciting stuff, and we'll see, how this leads in to Cello versus Ragna.
Well, we should just get right into it, right? So, Mogwai, why don't you just go ahead and take it away?
All right, let's take a look at the next matchup. We have the number 1 seed currently in the group versus a player who is 0-1 after losing to Yamato right there. It is Cello versus Ragnarosich, Chile versus Russia, as we have very differing matchups right here. Cello definitely one of the favorites, right, Panda, to take this entire tournament. Very, very high caliber player that is very respected as well within the competitive community. So excited. He took down a very strong opponent in Allen, and let's see if he can continue his European dominance, I guess. It hurts to say that, but yeah, let's see if he continues.
Not just that, but Cello has a lineup that is identical to Cosimo's without them preparing together. They just happen to land on the same
really?
3 decks. And
Ooh.
you kind of take this, precedent of Cosimo qualified yesterday. This is a good sign for me. And going into this match against Ragna, he actually has a pretty good lineup as well. So looking at the decks here, we're going to see Ping City, as I like to call it. We see Draven, Sion, and, kind of the 2 big boogeymen, or boogie woman as well, with Nami Zoe there as well.
Yeah, very strong lineup. I definitely did like Cosimo's performance yesterday with this. There is an argument that, it's missing a little bit of a Lulu Poppy, a deck that we've seen excel as well. But that just goes to show how, even though there's a lot of meta lineups running around, there's so many meta decks that there's a lot of, differing opinions and strategies within this tournament, even though we've seen the power level of certain decks that are a little bit above others, and he's packing that Draven Sion alongside Nami Zoe, which is definitely to be feared. But we got a situation in which the only deck in common between these 2 competitors is, surprisingly, Ping City, Gangplank Twist of Fate, as the other 2 decks are completely different. Sivir Akshan and the one and only Bandletree in Ragnaros's lineup.
My main question when I look at this Bandletree deck is, is Ragna, 5,000 IQ ahead of everyone else, or did he make a mistake? Because when you're the only player bringing a deck into a tournament, you have to ask yourself, why is this? In Shihu's case, maybe he has 5,000 IQ. Maybe him bringing Heimerdinger and Feel the Rush is something that I can
still
see
believe, man.
But in the case of Ragna with Bandletree, you have to start asking yourself a question. Is there a reason why players moved off of this deck from qualifiers? Real key. Qualify with 3 Bandletree decks, and he's completely off of that archetype altogether. So going into a meta with Draven Sion and with Draven Ezreal or Caitlyn being possibly the 2 big decks going into this tournament, that might be a big reason why you don't want to bring Bandletree.
Yeah, but speaking of Draven Caitlyn, a deck that hasn't really been performing too well in this tournament. Actually, I believe, has it even won a single game at this point? It's really crazy.
I kind of
how...
won with Draven Ezreal yesterday, for sure. So that's at least one there.
All right. Well, it's Draven Ezreal, so technically it doesn't count, right? Let's take a look at the lineups and the bans. It is Akshan Sivir getting the ban hammer for Ragnarosich, and no surprise there, Draven Sion, definitely the most banned deck of the World Championships at this point.
I did speak to Cello a little bit about his lineup and a bit of his thoughts going into this matchup specifically. I think he thought he was very favored, and I think if you look at this from a theoretical standpoint and line out the decks, it does make sense to me. I think he does have really good matchups. The one scarier matchup was Sivir Akshan into his Zoe, Nami.
Oh,
Mogwai,
I'm not the only one.
You're contagious, Mogwai. But I think that was a scary matchup, and he did tell me that he was maybe planning on banning Sivir Akshan just for that reason, and it looks like that is the case here. Kind of very expected bans here. Bandletree against TFGP, I think, just doesn't have any way to heal, doesn't finish the game fast enough with Bandletree. Has presence on the board, yes, but you're not going to stop the impact, you're not going to stop the double ups for the most part unless you kill off your own unit, which sometimes is possible depending on how the list looks like for Ragnarosich.
And that Pink City Bandletree matchup is exactly one of the very good reasons as to why I really am happy people brought Twisted Fate instead of Misfortune in these Gangplank decks, as Twisted Fate can just put tremendous work in the matchup. And both of them have a similar structure when it comes to units, but the big difference is the Bilgewater edition that allows them to control the board much better than the Noxian version can do. And they're relying on that landmark, where you can say there is no landmark removal, but like you mentioned, I just don't feel that this Bandletree deck could become the liability here, because I don't know if it's going to be fast enough against either of these decks. Definitely not against Zoe Nami, which I am expecting to get a pretty clean win here, but we'll see.
And there won't be landmark removal, but the way to remove that bandle tree in the matchup against TFGP is just to kill the Nexus before it has any relevance.
Pretty good strategy.
That is a way to end games and to deal with certain cards. You just end the game before the card becomes relevant. It's something that I've, as a kind of resident aggro player across many metas, it's something that you learn very quickly. You don't have to counter cards if you can just end the game before they come into play.
I learned something new every day, Cassie, with you, Panda.
trying to help you, Mogwai. I'm doing what I can.
Thank you for your invaluable insight as we are going to be heading into the game shortly. What do you expect Ragnarosich to lead with here? Gangplank?
I mean, it could be both. Gangplank into Nami is just, against maybe in ladder, against a player that's not super experienced, you can just maybe go face and it can work out. But against a player that knows what they're doing, that are banking spell mana, they're making sure Starglefly survives, any kind of removal spell, it does become more difficult. But it looks like it's going to be Bandle Tree, going to be the Noxus Bandle City deck that was popularized at the start of the expansion, that was big in the qualifier, but that has kind of lost a lot of steam, both on ladder and in tournaments in the past week.
One of the important things to note about Ragnarosich's variant is, unfortunately, it's not taking as much advantage as other variants from the Noxus Splash, because this deck only plays one Scorched Earth and no Ravenous Flock, which could be very reliable sources of removal to guarantee Nami getting out of there. So that's going to be interesting. We do see a full set of Mini Morph, though, and while expensive, it is perhaps the most reliable answer to Nami, as it does not allow for any sort of counterplay, right? The burst speed removal, the only burst speed removal in the game, can shut down Nami and the opponent can't respond with their own burst speed spells.
Is very relevant. One turn lower on that mini morph might be important. Aloof is also, sometimes can be big, actually, just to get Shelly, for example, which is another key unit, of course, kind of the plan B in this Nami Zoe deck. I was going to mention there was no double trouble on turn 3, but right as I was going to mention it, Cello did top deck it. Going into it, if you're a good Nami player, you know what you're doing. You're going to top deck that double trouble when you need it.
Poppy goes down, representing a pretty scary attack here, but at the same time, it also is a bit of a weird position for Ragnarosich, because if Cello does bring down Nami, we do see the removal there on the far left of his hand, but that will be easily countered by a Pale Casket. If he does commit 2 mana, he cannot resort to Mini Morph the turn after. So how Ragnarosich navigates around this Nami is going to be everything. We saw how devastating this champion can be if you just let it live in the Allen matchup earlier. So it's one of those things. What approach can he take? He does have that group shot that will deal 2 damage to it. So obviously, first of all, he's going to lead up with the attack, and we'll see.
The biggest thing here is obviously not blocking with Nami. You don't want to, put her into damage unless you just think, you have a Guiding Touch in hand. That is true, but I think you want to make Ragnarosich go through as many hoops as possible to get this Nami down. I think that's the biggest thing when you're playing Nami. Zoe, you might feel threatened though. I mean, Poppy on turn 4. This is a big thing with many decks. Depending on when you have your attack token, and if it matches your kind of power play, it could be Draven, it could be Poppy, it could be Gangplank. It's actually very, very relevant. And it lined up perfectly for Ragnar, where you had House Spider to, widen the board on turn 2, Telescope turn 3, and then Poppy perfectly on curve on turn 4.
Pale Casket being played before, very relevant. Now Nami has no protection. If he blocks with Nami, it will go down to this group shot. Or he can even go, what was the name of the bazooka? I don't want to call it bazooka.
I like not blocking here. I mean, it gives you the chance.
Yeah, he has to. After playing that Pale Casket, he has to, I think.
And again, you have Sparklefly. We've seen it before with Targon-based decks. You get down to 6 HP, you're fine. You're gonna heal back up to 20 in a second. Especially with Avid Dragon and Lee Sin, but sometimes also quite relevant with Nami Zoe if you buff the Sparklefly enough.
The cards are a little bit weirdly placed right there. Maybe the no, there wasn't any overwhelm, because we do know the overwhelm bug shakes the board and then it stays shook.
The earthquake effect.
Yeah, the earthquake effect. Yeah. There's the Bandle tree right there being drawn by Ragnarosich. But again, this is the kind of matchup where I don't think we're going to be seeing that card being played anytime soon, as you always got to have that mana open to deal with Nami first. That is your utmost priority here. Still, no elusive units to be seen on the board here for Cello, which does take a lot of pressure away from Ragnarosich, as he opts to prioritize the aloof travelers, and we did not see what was discarded there.
And one very important thing that I have to mention, because this matchup, it can sometimes be relevant, there's a single Scorched Earth in the deck for Ragnarosich. This can be used, of course, to, pretty much guarantee a kill on a Nami as long as you don't have Guiding Touch, for example. But there is a but, because if you play a Scorched Earth, this puts it into the pools of cards that Spell Thief can steal. And if you're going to go all in on the Banner Tree strategy, you have to keep this in mind, because all of a sudden, it's about to take the 10, and your opponent Spell Thieves into Scorched Earth and destroy the landmark, even though they're not running landmark removal in their deck. So it's obviously a very nuanced thing, but you have to keep it in mind.
Definitely. I was expecting Ragnarosich here to help me out, Panda. Bazooka? What's bazooka?
Buster Shot.
Busters, thank you.
Mogwai,
I prefer bazooka.
Sometimes I just ask myself many questions about how you read the names of these cards and how your brain stores that data, because
my brain is a bit of a mystery for a lot of things. Regardless,
I can understand that.
Well, thank you. I thought you would actually
mystery in the good way, and you're so complex that it's hard to understand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nice save. We see many morph available here for Ragnarosich. He could just play it immediately at burst speed, and he does. Will he choose to attack? He does attack as well. You got to keep that pressure up, not let the opponent breathe. There's another Nami in Cello's hand, but Ragnarosich just like, I'm going to force as many blocks as I can.
And you do have the trade here on the Poppy. You know, of course, in the Fusion combo, there isn't really any kind of Ring of Resolve, any kind of way to help this Poppy survive this trade. So it's a guarantee here with the Messenger. Clear up the board. You take 4. You're going down to 8. We haven't seen a Sparklefly come down yet, so that is a little bit scary. The hand is pretty clunky here for Cello with just no units. You have Nami, but who else is there with Nami? You want to see Sparkleflies. You want to see units that can flood the board, double troubles even. And it's not the case here. You might have to use Guiding Touch proactively, which also doesn't feel good. This is a matchup where you want to use Guiding Touch to deny kill spells like Scorched Earth. There's no Flock in the deck for Ragna, but Scorched Earth might be relevant.
Draws into Shelly, has Nami on the board, several spells as well. Good protection with the Sunblessed Vigor, but no board to buff, as we are definitely going to be seeing a unit being dropped here. Burbofish, really good top deck.
And what spell you get could be relevant. Messenger Sigil is not going to be something too. I mean, we could have seen a jailbreak, we could have seen...
It's 1 mana burst,
That is true, of course. I mean, relevant in terms of flooding the board and helping, get buffs.
for sure. Like he could definitely use an extra unit here, 100%.
But it might just be Shelly and Bricklefish, the movie. It might just be these 2 units getting buffed to Oblivion, Buster Shot and Bogey Stick trying to kill off these units, but there's double Vigor in hand, so now this hand is all about saving these 2 elusives, and it could just be a 2-man show.
He does have elusive blockers here.
Yeah. Hush is there, but I'm not sure if you want to Hush unless you're going for a kill, obviously, or some kind of, big value.
You could just muscle through her. Like you don't need to. You're definitely not going to be killing this turn. So I completely agree. I think this turn is very important for him to keep that 4 mana for the double, for at least one Sunblessed Vigor at this point. I mean, you don't need to focus more than that because the opponent's down to 2 mana. So that takes away a lot of pressure. And he gets the Pokey Stick. That's phenomenal. Allowing him to draw through his deck.
And you were talking about the Flocks not being there for Ragnar. It just changes the way this matchup is played so much. It gives Cello the chance to just do things without really, not necessarily not thinking about them, but just not worrying about these punishes for attacking here, for getting the Shelly damage by the Banal Commando, for example. You're just open to a lot less punishment, I think.
We could see a block from the Commando onto the Shelly, and then him trying to go for the Buster Shot onto it. Yep.
And of course, that would be punished by the Vigor. It's still there in the hand. 2 of them actually, so you have some double protection lined up for the next turn as well.
Playing around Pale Casket here. Sorry, not Pale Casket. What is he playing around with his Buster Shot, actually? Yeah, Pale Casket.
It's the only +1 health in this case.
Yeah, he's playing around Pale Casket.
The Nami would still buff the Burblefish in that case.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't understand. I'm not sure I get that block, actually. But it doesn't seem like he was aiming to take it down this turn anyways. But that's interesting.
He's thinking about Give It All, I think. Yeah, Give It All is a card that, obviously in a meta that doesn't have Ionia, all of a sudden these very strong, powerful spells. We saw Fuel the Rush popping off for Kevin before. They have just an open field to do their thing without being scared of getting denied or just, having this huge tempo trade-off.
There's no elusive. That's the big downside here.
Yeah, Impact is an interesting keyword to share.
True. But it's 8 mana.
There's some cute stuff you can do with Give It All.
I don't want to be the pessimist here. I just don't see Ragnarosich surviving one more turn.
And the guiding touch that was top decked as well in hand, plus the possible ebb from the ebb and flow means that you're not even scared of a possible Scorched Earth. Sparklefly, we mentioned she was missing from this wonderful board on Cello's side. She has now come into play, and now you have that extra bit of safety with the heals as well.
That double Sunbless Vigor feels fantastic. Another Sparklefly there being drawn by Chell. This is fine. This is fine.
And because there's only one Scorched Earth, you're now fine with putting the Sparklefly to get damage, because now you know that only one of these two units, either the Burblefish or the Sparklefly, can get killed. There's no Phlox to punish both of them. So again, it just leaves Cello the opportunity to play not recklessly, but just to not have to play so safe. You can take riskier lines, get more benefit from these lines, and not be punished for it.
Yeah, that lack of Ravenous Flock is massive, I think, definitely.
And this goes back to me thinking, when I first saw this lineup for Ragnarosich, is this a mistake? Is there something that he didn't consider about this current meta? Because it just doesn't seem to line up into what I expected to see and what I think players expected to see. And it's why we only see one Banner Tree deck in the entire tournament.
Definitely going to be very hard for Ragnarosich. I honestly did not expect him to get a win against Zoe Nami with his two decks. So this is a very expected win here for Cello, it's looking like. But the key question is, will he be able to take on his remaining deck and overcome that? Because this is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Like I could try to add some dramatic intensity to this, but
and you think you're finally gonna kill at least one of these elusives, but you're wrong. There's another Vigor coming in, another buff, another Nami buff as well, and you can almost get 20-0. Game one goes to Cello. Dominant performance from a dominant deck, and again, it comes down to not even the player skill or Ragna, playing well or badly. It's just the lineup itself. The moment you queue it in, it's already kind of doomed from the beginning.
Yeah, that was a beatdown from Zoe Nami, and now Cello has Gangplank, Twisted Fate, Bandle Tree, Pink City left against Pink City Mirror and the Bandle Tree deck itself. Will Ragnarosich bring back the Bandle Tree deck in the matchup, or will he go for the Mirror? You take a look at
that being said, you think the Mirror, you think 50-50, you think, my odds are, pretty even. But I have some bad news. That might actually not be the case, because Cello teched in one Aloof Travelers into this deck, hitting Gangplank, hitting Double Up. Those could be huge hits. And that very small change that I think not only looks at this Mirror, but looks at things like Draven Scion as well, looks at things like maybe Fuel a Rush in Kevin's Plunder list and Plunder decks in general as well, is actually going to be pretty big if it is drawn here, and if it can be relevant as well. That's the only card I think that changed, except for another thing. Ragnarosich is running Group Shot. This is, I think, the old version of TFGP, the first version, and I think, personally, the incorrect version. I think Parley is the better card to run in the list, and it is Group Shot instead. And two copies of Group Shot in the list for Ragna.
Harley, I do agree, is the better card just because of the level up progression for Gangplank, and even better in this case because there's a lot of targets to hit with it. Something very important to note is some people may be wondering, well, what did he take out from the list to include Aloof Travelers? And I love this decision.
One double up.
One double up. I think this is great. We were talking about earlier how double up loses a lot of power in an environment where open deck lists, the surprise factor is out of the window.
Mogwai. Okay, is it gonna be the triple? Ooh, almost a triple. It's gonna be 2 hits instead. All units at 1 health, so it was, obviously gonna be good regardless of what you hit. I think the best would have been the board control. I think in a mirror like this one, you might think aggro, you might think just go face, but when you're both aggro, when you're both going face, controlling the board does matter to some extent in the early game.
I agree, but at the same time, the level up progression for Gangplank is also crucial. So getting that pain, getting that plunder, very important. Pokestick onto the Inventive Chemist and knock it out.
Someone looking at Cello's hand and how he's been playing these first few rounds, you might think this is a TFGP control deck, because we don't see any early game whatsoever. We see only reactive spells, as if this deck was built to counter aggro. So kind of not the intention. We're seeing the Parley draw here as well, but he is getting a lot of just control in the early game, and now he has the big plays with Lecturing Yordle. Coming down for both players, actually.
Lecturing Yordle going to take down that barrel to prevent the 2 damage from the Poison Dart. and he's going to be generating another one on attack there. This can allow him to clear up that Dreadweight deckhand if he decides to do just that, or he can just ping one at face, because it is, we keep on mentioning, the big win condition in this deck, it's Gangplank. So getting the level up before your opponent can be absolutely game winning. So not surprising to see these poison darts being thrown at the face. The question is, what will happen with this second poison dart?
That is a big question, and what decision Xeldo makes here indicates a lot about his game plan going forward as well. Gonna hit the Yordle. This is something that obviously, if you hit a unit once and you're trying to control the board, this dictates you're gonna be controlling the board the next few turns as well. You don't just suddenly change plans on the next turn.
Yes.
So this is actually very important information here. Seeing Xeldo trying to knock down this Electric Yordle, the block here, and then the parley. The second parley was top decked. Either one of those can knock out this Yordle and control the board even more. And Ragna has a very low mana hand, so this is going to be hard for him to impact the late game if he's being just contained so well in these first few turns.
You may think, well, he's got some good cycling there with double Poké Stick. Yeah, but they cost 2 mana each, and we're at a point where players have been essentially spending all their mana. There has been very little spell mana being carried over here. Both players are at 5 mana, and they need to be able to make efficient plays. And as you mentioned, like, this hand is running out of gas and has, you know, a lot of options, but all of them very low impact. And at this stage, that can be a little bit of a liability, actually, as Xeldo's has, Xeldo even has more card draw and value in general. We'll see. Definitely going to be
top decks from the Poké Stick, from the pathways on Xeldo's side, and from obviously the double Poké Stick as well on Ragnar's side will be crucial. Seeing a Gangplank, I think Gangplank being played in this deck, and when it comes down, is one of the most impactful, you know, played win rate cards by far, even compared to other decks.
I was thinking he's gonna go for it. He is the double up on
Full
the
control.
Dreadweight deckhand. Yep. No counter.
Completely controlling the board here.
No counter. He doesn't need to kill the Electric Yordle this turn either. So that's phenomenal. And we're gonna see a combination of Poké Stick into the Poison Dart to knock out this Electric Yordle, and there he is.
3 out of 5 there as well. So this is a big draw for Ragnar. It gives him kind of a lot of, like we mentioned, a lot of impact going into this next turn.
Yeah, the problem we were just talking about earlier, mitigated. He's got the win condition. Let's see if Xeldo can find his own Gangplank. No, Runeterra is not awful. But back-to-back champion draws for Ragnarosich. Leading off with a parley here.
Might certainly swing things in Ragnar's favor now, because the early game I think was definitely, you know, kind of on Xeldo's side. Even though he took more damage, I think he did control the board quite well and kind of stopped most of what Ragnar was trying to do. But like you mentioned, Gangplank coming down, you're going to want to damage the Nexus this turn. You will be able to do so with the Poké Stick, for example, or the Make It Rain. And if Xeldo draws a mushroom on the next attack, Gangplank can swing in leveled up without having to do anything, which is a very, very strong effect. So we'll see how relevant that might be going into the next turn if the mushroom is drawn from Xeldo.
Oh, baby, this Make It Rain.
Yeah.
This Make It Rain. You can block with the Inventive Chemist, set up the Make It Rain, and that is just absolutely beautiful.
Mogwai, if a mushroom is drawn here, it's going to be so massive for Ragnar. That would really swing things completely in his favor.
Heart of the Mushrooms, here we go. How many has he planted at this point? I mean, both have planted a few.
Yeah, they
Both
both take quite a few poison darts.
Yep. Nope.
No mushroom, so no damage on the Nexus for this turn yet for GP.
You still go face. You still.
Here.
Oh yeah, you go for the. I love this play. I love just going for the Poké
plus
Stick.
1 attack. You won't get the kind of the attack. Let's say. You know, the effect from GP when he does attack leveled up, but you will at least get the extra damage from the 6th attack after the level up. So trying to do as much damage as possible. No blocker, I think, is the green light for GP. You're going to hit with 6 damage. You know nothing can kill this GP. Double up is obviously not quite there, not hitting 6 damage, and in a burn matchup, being at 5 is a dangerous place to be at.
Every ounce of damage matters in this matchup, as there is no healing. And Electric Yordles are also pretty impactful here, but right now, Xeldo is in trouble. He's down on mana and still has a weaker board. He has 5 health left, and we're seeing that bomb ticking as well. Gangplank piling up these powder kegs. And this is looking really scary.
is not impactful enough. I think Xeldo might have to kind of go all in into a possible draw into Gangplank if he's leveled up and try and get some kind of crazy kill. Maybe not this turn, but on defense next turn at fast speed, like double up or something. You have to go for the draws here.
Gangplank.
You find Aloof. It's too late for Aloof. The GP's already down on the board for Ragna.
Heart of the cards, not strong enough. He did not believe in the power of friendship.
You can still draw with Pokey, but you're going to go for Aloof instead here. The Mushroom. No Gangplank, though, in, well, the board here for Xeldo, so not really that huge impact play, and it's looking pretty doomed here with Ragna attacking next turn with GP alive and healthy at 6 HP and the double barrels like you mentioned.
Double barrels, that bomb taking off as well. All these little pings stack up, and if you have no way of removing that overwhelm, because that is one of the weaknesses of this region combination. It's got a lot of pings, but it doesn't deal too well with big units. So, funnily enough, the win condition is even more powerful in this matchup, as we're going to see a power lead go down. We can definitely see a response from a Pokey Stick, but whatever Xeldo opts to do in response to this will limit the amount of... He can't play any more cards, which means this group shot comes down and gets to benefit from the barrels here.
And that is a big group shot. When you're seeing it here, it does look pretty strong in the way it's played out here, but... another mushroom drawn, making it even easier. And the Gangplank comes in, but just too late for Xeldo.
We're going to a game 3, ladies and gentlemen. We are
still
going
play out
to
the
a game
Mirai
3.
Warden here. Actually, no, you want to have the barrel probably for the next turn. It's actually more relevant. So it would just burn the Banna here. Actually, depends. Yeah, if you just get rid of a blocker here, it still won't be worth it.
You have the impact. I mean, taking damage on Gangplank is a little bit.
A little bit sus.
Yeah. Well, the way this works, by the way, the bomb triggers and then you get the powder keg. So now, yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know if I would have blocked like that, but hey.
I think he knows that, you know, no matter what he does, there's no way to stop.
A little bit picky here.
The barrel here, the stack obviously before the attack goes in, and that's going to be game 2 goes to Ragna. A good start from Xeldo controlling the board in this aggro mirror, but the draws on that turn 5 for Ragna were perfect. He found GP on curve, was able to level him up, and there wasn't that same response from Xeldo. He kind of didn't have that same big impact play later on. So 1-1 in the series going to come down to TFGP on Xeldo's side and Bandletree on Ragna's side. I played this matchup a bit on ladder. I think Bandletree usually can't keep up with the damage, can't heal obviously, and can't close the game with Bandletree in time before GP and just all the different pings hitting the Nexus take over.
It's what we mentioned prior. Both decks are pretty efficient at swarming. Both have similar board states throughout the match. But the difference is that Bilgewater Edition, having access to all those pings, complementing the Pokey Sticks, getting the powder kegs in the mix as well from the deckhand and the Gangplank, just allows the Ping City player to really dominate the board state and finish off before Bandletree actually becomes relevant. As we see a pretty early curve here by Ragnarosich. Not a bad opener by any means.
And the Aloof as well. We saw the Aloof ping picked up there. It's going to hit the Gangplank that we saw in hand coming out of turn earlier. I'm not sure there's anything that Xeldo can do to kind of really put pressure on the board so that Aloof doesn't come down on 4. Or even, you know, with Bandletree Mayor, even more incentive to play it when it's discounted. So it's all of a sudden what we were talking about. This is actually kind of a perfect hand for Ragna. Has an early game curve and has the Mayor into the Aloof to discard the Gangplank.
One of the important things to note is that you can always draw another one, right? Right now it's looking really good, but a second Gangplank draw could just keep Xeldo in the game. I'd like to take a look at his hand whenever that's possible. But yeah, we see the Crack Corsair go down. And there is the House Spider. Not a great attack here for... There we go. Not a great attack here for Xeldo. Awkward, because you got to attack with the Invented Chemist, and you can just trade the Spiderling into that. It just does not feel good because you lose your blocker for the House Spider. So, bit rough.
And of course, Xeldo knows all about, you know, trading and blocking and, you know, when to attack and when not to. But in this case, you kind of have to get the damage ping off with the Crackshot Corsair to get the GP level up on time. Little does you know, that GP might not be surviving, you know, because of the Aloof Travelers. But you still have to, that's still your game plan. In the early game, swarm the board, get damage down. But kind of the little side mission is hit the Nexus once every turn to get the Gangplank level up on curve.
This open attack with the House Spider definitely very telling that Ragnarosich is looking to keep that Buster shot available in case he really needs it, or just develop the Vandal City Mayor instead. Not really looking to develop the board this turn. Ooh, that's a good pickup. This could incentivize him. If he picks it up, he could actually prioritize the Tenor of Terror over the Aloof Traveler just for a strong setup. No, but it's not his attack token. It's not his attack token, so never mind.
Gangplank is just so relevant.
Yeah,
we were talking about his impact when he's played in the TFGP deck that you kind of can't do anything else, I think.
Completely agree. Gonna go for the Parley onto Purtoporo. Rip Purtoporo, as now we will see Fizz go down.
Fizz is actually huge with Make It Rain, though.
Yes.
I guess there's not that many fast speed spells in this Bandle Tree deck, especially with no Phlox as well. I guess there's one that's burst speed. But yeah, I think we will be seeing the Aloof coming down. Gangplank, of course, just can't win this race. He's a 5-mana card, so he can't come down before that. And I think even with the discount, it's even more juicy to bring down the Aloof Travelers. And once Ragnar sees the card that is being discarded, he's going to be a very happy person.
Ooh, got him. Got him. Yeah, that's brutal.
And Cello is not happy with that result, of course. It is, again, this Aloof Travelers card is not just good value in general because of the asymmetrical drawing effect, but also because you're hitting a lot of key cards in so many different decks that really rely on things like Scion, things like Gangplank, things like Sejuani in the Plunder decks. And Cello cannot be happy about that one. Really dampens his impact on this next turn. We're looking here, I mean, the hand.
Yeah, another low impact draw right there. That's really rough. Ragnarosich gonna pick up the value right here. Gonna go for the Buster Shot onto the Crack Shot Corsair. Has Tenor of Terror alongside the Landmark Yordle, the 3/2 Landmark Yordle, who is Bomber Twins. Yep.
Thank you, Mogwai.
I got that's the.
I was wondering if you knew. I maybe you just don't even know a single card's name. You're just YOLOing it, and no one has noticed until now.
Don't do me like that. What the hell? Now Twitch is gonna be like, does he even play the game?
I think you're trying to get the challenge of just trying to go through a cast without saying a single card's name. You almost made it, Mogwai, but I caught on to you.
I don't think you're being very fair. But hey, you know what's also not fair? That Bomber Twin getting that Preservarium. What a sweet pull.
A good high roll. Ragnarosich over the last 2 games, he has to be feeling pretty good about his draws, about the cards he's been hitting on these kind of semi-variance plays that aren't guaranteed. Really, he's been getting some really good hits. We saw it with even just the pull of the 10 of Terrors off the Mayor. I mean, it's all been going his way really this game.
100%. And I love his full attack here. Be like, I don't need the Mayor at this point. I need damage. I would also appreciate the Yordle to block me here because I can finish it off with a Buster Shot afterwards. And it's just a really good call right here. Looking into a lot of damage. We see 8, 10 damage here. We're going to drop him down to 6. Very dangerous. His Cello is going to be in the red here.
And this is, normally the game plan for Bandle Tree is actually to play. I mean, I guess it depends. You do obviously adapt your game plan depending on what you're facing. But in many cases, it's just flooding the board with cheap units early on and then surviving till the Bandle Tree turn. Although, of course, the plan B and sometimes the plan A is just to just hit your opponent in face, go very wide, and end games that way. And against Cello's deck, I think he does have to be quick about what he's doing because if he waits too long, the damage will continue coming in. There's still going to be refuel with Pokesticks and Pathways, and things like Double Up and possibly a Gangplank top tech could really accelerate Cello's game plan. So he has to kind of go fast.
Definitely has to use this Poison Dart right here. Gonna go face instead of trying to clear up the board a little bit by pinging one of the 3/2s and then potentially finishing off with a Make It Rain. He actually just opts to ping him face. Can he afford this at this point?
There's the Bandle Tree draw as well.
Oof.
I think it's still too far away though. I mean, we did see, we saw too many Tender of Terrors and House Spiders and Bomber Twins.
Ragnarosich is definitely winning via damage here.
We did see Fizz as well, though there are maybe a few different regions, but it's going to be like at 5 or 6 still, not much more than that, so you don't really have time, I think, to... And you do obviously just want to go play a unit. I guess you can't play a unit, I mean, there aren't any in hand. You do want to go wider and try and get more damage in with your opponent at 6 HP.
Ragnarosich does have the answer for the Lecturing Yordle, but he's respecting the Gangplank and keeping the Minimorph mana available. But now that this Make It Rain goes down is when the Buster Shot will happen. Onto the Lecturing Yordle. And this is what I was talking about. Like, if he pinged one of these 3/2s, he could have, like, cleared it, right? Because if he misses this Make It Rain...
Oh, he hits all 3. The Tenor, of course, is still healthy.
Yeah, he can still block.
Will even survive, one of the blocks here.
Cello is out of gas, and we see that Preservarium in Ragnarosich's hand alongside Pokestick, a lot of recycling. Also, the Bandle Tree may not necessarily have to be a win condition at this point, just the value generator as well.
And you said it. I mean, you're thinking in Chel's position, oh, sure, he's out of gas, but what if he top decks a Gangplank? Well, there's a mini-morph, waiting already in hand for Ragna, so he kind of has all these plan B and C and D checked out already. Pathways is, maybe the card you would want the most here to try and get the 2-for-1 draws.
The tenor! Do, re, mi, fa, sol, I win!
Double tenor off the mayor is, a bit of a high roll, Mogwai. I have to, say that, but Ragna has been on the high roll train all game long.
Fine.
Hit the Gangplank, hit the double tenor, hit the Preservarium even. I mean, what more do you want from your cards?
This was Ragnarosich really has his heart of the cards in place. This was amazing, an amazing curve out here, and a very, honestly, in my opinion, very unexpected dominating win here for Ragnarosich. Going to be able to take out the #1 seed in Cello. Cello with that awesome win against Alan in round 1. And Ragnarosich going to get back into the mix. Both players going to be left at a 1-1 record, which means Group C is still up for grabs for anybody, which makes it really exciting.
I was doubting this lineup, and I was doubting, looking at the numbers, I thought it was very favorable for Cello, but that's card games for you, and those are draws for you, and that's, Ragnar's a very good player, and he went, did what his deck does best, and he was able to get the 2 wins and get the reverse sweep here on Cello. So anything can happen really in these matches. You think it's already set in stone, but completely not the case.
I mean, getting a chance to get the 50-50 with the TFGP against the TFGP, and then also getting a win with the Nox Bandletree. This was definitely Ragnarosich's game, and it was really, really cool to get a chance to see that happen. Are you surprised at all, Mogwai, getting to see the Nox Bandletree in action and also take that win?
Well, yeah, I mean, still, we've been talking about it as if it was, a terrible deck. It's actually a really solid list that's been at the top of the meta for quite some time. It's just the way certain decisions for lineups and such have been shifting in very recently, because this shift has happened, it's only a week old at best, right? So it is definitely not shocking to see that deck perform well. And there's a reason why that deck has been at the top for a while. It swarms out really well. And if you pull out those Aloof Travelers and those Tenor of Terrors back to back, man, you're unstoppable. So really solid performance for Ragnarosich, especially after that pretty demoralizing beating from Zoe Nami game 1. That was a really one-sided matchup, and it seems like we're just going to get out of this one with a 2-0. But he brought it back, and he made Group C very interesting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, tied 1-1 now for Cello and Ragnarosich. We're going to pull up those standings just so you can get a visual of what Group C actually looks like right now. This is definitely interesting. I mean, Yamato and Alan still have to play each other at this point. We could have a 4-way tie. Who knows how that's going to go. But Group D, we are going to be getting back to that group shortly with the 3rd match in that group's round robin. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen. This has been an incredibly interesting day so far. Mogwai, thank you so much for joining us on the cast for these last 2 matches. We're going to say goodbye to you for now,